The desert was quiet after the storm. The wind had blown all night, lifting waves of sand and shifting dunes that had not moved for years. When the morning sun rose over the dry land, something strange shone under the new light. A dark, curved shape jutted out from the ground, half buried in the sand. It was not a rock. It was not metal that anyone on Earth had ever seen before. Dr. Laura Mitchell stood on the ridge of the dune with her notebook in hand. She was young, full of curiosity, and loved searching for forgotten things. She had been leading a small group of explorers to study old native carvings nearby, but the storm had changed everything. Now her eyes were fixed on the strange object. "Below, that is no natural formation," she whispered. Her voice trembled with both fear and excitement. Next to her stood Captain Ryan Carter, a retired Air Force pilot. His tall frame and calm nature made the others trust him, even in uncertain moments. He squinted against the sunlight and frowned. "It looks like a ship," he said slowly, "but not one of ours." The group made their way down the dune carefully, their boots sinking into the soft sand. As they approached, the size of the object became clear. It was massive, stretching hundreds of feet, its surface scarred and blackened as if it had been through fire. Strange markings covered its hull, glowing faintly in the sun, almost alive with color. Ethan Brooks, young engineer who had joined the team to help with equipment, pressed his hand against the surface. "This isn't steel or any alloy I know," he said. His voice shook with excitement. "This is something else." Laura knelt close to the hull, brushing away sand with her hands. The markings seemed like writing, though no language she had ever studied. "This must be alien," she breathed. The word hung in the air, heavy with meaning. The team exchanged uneasy glances. Ryan's jaw tightened. If this really came from beyond Earth, then someone decided to leave it here. The question is why. Hours passed as they uncovered more of the ship. The more sand they pushed aside, the more of the enormous structure revealed itself. The curved lines, the smooth plating, the scorched engine sit all spoke of a craft that had once sailed through space, but now lay broken and forgotten under Earth's desert. At last, the group set up lights and camp equipment. Night fell quickly, the deserts cooling into silence. The stars above glittered like diamonds, almost as if mocking the dead ship below them. Laura could not sleep. She sat with her notebook, sketching the strange lines of the vessel, trying to imagine its history. Ryan joined her, sitting on a nearby crate. "You've seen ruins, caves, even fossils," he said softly. "But this is different." Laura nodded. "This is proof we are not alone," she said. Her voice was steady now, filled with wonder. "This could change everything we know about history, about our place in the universe." Ryan stared at the ship for a long time. "Or it could be a warning," he said quietly. "Things like this are not abandoned by accident. Whatever built it, whatever fought, it might still be out there." The silence that followed was heavy. The night wind brushed across the sand, whispering through the gaps of the ancient hull. By morning, government officials had been called. Trucks rolled across the desert carrying men in uniforms, scientists with instruments, and soldiers with rifles. The camp grew into a base within hours. The discovery was too big to hide, yet too dangerous to reveal to the world at once. Laura watched as more and more of the ship was uncovered. She felt both joy and fear. Joy at the chance to study something beyond imagination, and fear at what it might bring. Ethan worked tirelessly with machines to cut into the surface, but the metal resisted every tool. Sparks flew, drills broke, and nothing seemed to pierce it. Then, without warning, a soft hum echoed from deep inside the ship. The ground shook under their feet. Lights flickered across the hull, and a low vibration filled the air. Everyone froze. In shock, Laura's heart raced. She clutched her notebook to her chest. "It's alive," she whispered. The massive ship, silent for who knew how many centuries, had awakened. And with that, the story of humanity's greatest discovery had only just begun. The ground was still trembling when the humming faded. The team stood frozen in silence, staring at the alien ship. The glow along its hull flickered like fading embers, then dimmed, leaving only faint lines of light. No one spoke for a long time. The desert wind whistled over the dunes, carrying sand across the half-buried ship. Captain Ryan Carter was the first to break the silence. "Everyone stay calm," he ordered in a firm voice. "No one goes near the opening until we know it's safe." His eyes never left the strange vessel. Dr. Laura Mitchell clutched her notebook close to her chest. Her thoughts raced faster than she could write. Something inside the ship had responded to them. It was not just dead metal. There was still power. In it, she whispered, almost to herself, "It remembers." Ethan Brooks knelt beside a glowing panel, his hands itching to touch the strange markings. "It's trying to talk," he said with wonder. I think it knows we're here." Soldiers moved closer, rifles raised, but they hesitated. None of their weapons felt large enough to matter against something so ancient and alien. By midday, the sight had grown. More trucks rolled in, carrying generators, scanning equipment, and armored vehicles. Scientists argued over readings while officers barked orders. What had started as a small dig now looked like the heart of a secret operation. Laura walked slowly along the hall, running her fingers over the markings. She had studied old languages for years, from forgotten carvings to lost alphabets, but this was unlike anything she had seen. Still, she believed symbols always carried meaning. She copied them carefully into her notebook, hoping patterns would appear. Ethan, meanwhile, was surrounded by machines that could not keep up with the ship's mystery. His scanners returned impossible results. "It's like the material doesn't exist on any chart," he muttered. "Not titanium, not carbon, nothing. It's something else entirely." Ryan stood at the edge of the growing camp, his arms crossed as he watched the soldiers place floodlights around the ship. He had flown jets through storms and across war zones, but this was different. This was not an enemy he could see or predict. He felt a weight pressing on him, to sense that they had just stepped into someone else's battlefield. That night, the camp buzzed with energy. Generators hummed, spotlights lit the desert floor, and the air was filled with voices, machines, and endless questions. In the middle of it all, the ship lay silent, its hull reflecting the light in strange patterns. Laura sat by the fire with her notes spread across her lap. Ethan joined her, holding a broken scanner in one hand. A piece sighed. "Every test fails. The ship bends signals, eats energy, and refuses to be measured. It's like it doesn't want to be understood." Laura looked up at him. "Maybe it doesn't need us to understand it. Maybe it's waiting for something." Before Ethan could answer, a sharp sound cut through the night. The hull of the ship gave off another low hum. This time, light spread further, racing along its body like veins glowing beneath skin. A section of the surface began to shift, plates sliding apart until a dark opening appeared. Soldiers shouted and raised their weapons. Ryan barked orders for them to hold their fire. "Nobody shoots unless I say so." The opening revealed a sloping ramp leading into the ship. Cold air poured out, carrying a metallic smell and something else, something old and heavy, like a memory of war. Laura's heart pounded. She took a step forward, her voice barely steady. "It's inviting us inside." Ryan grabbed her arm. Before she could move closer, "Or it's luring us in," he warned. His sharp eyes studied the dark passage. Ships don't just open themselves for strangers. Ethan's face lit with excitement despite the danger. "But think about it, Ryan. This is history. This is proof that we are not alone. If we walk away now, we'll lose the chance to learn what it is. The debate raged among the leaders. Some wanted to seal the opening and study it from outside. Others argued they must enter before the ship closed again. In the end, the decision was made. A small team would go inside Drian as leader, Laura as the one who understood symbols, and Ethan for his engineering skill. Dressed in protective suits, the three of them stood at the foot of the ramp. The night was silent again, every eye in the camp fixed on them. Ryan looked at his companions. "Stay close, stay sharp," he said quietly. "If anything feels wrong, we leave." They stepped forward, their boots echoing on the alien metal. The ramp led them into a vast corridor, the walls smooth and black, pulsing with faint light. Strange symbols glowed along the path, guiding them deeper. Laura touched one of the glowing lines. It pulsed brighter under her hand, and a sudden flash filled her mind shapes of stars. Battles in the sky and ships exploding in silence. She gasped and stumbled back. Ryan caught her. I saw something," Laura whispered. Her voice trembled. "Memories. This ship has memories." It was in a war. The three of them walked further until they reached a large chamber. In the center stood a dark console covered in symbols. It looked like the heart of the ship. Asterisk. Ethan stepped closer, his hand hovering above the surface. "This is it," he whispered. "This is how it speaks." The console lit up as if it had been waiting for his touch. The chamber filled with light, and a deep voice not human echoed. Around them, it spoke in a strange language, sharp and heavy. Yet somehow, the meaning pressed into their minds. It said, "You are not the makers. You are not the owners. Why are you here?" Laura's breath caught in her throat. She looked at Ryan and Ethan with wide eyes. The ship was not just alive, it was asking them a question, and it wanted an answer. Asterisk. The voice echoed inside the chamber, deep and heavy, as if the walls themselves were speaking. Ryan Carter tightened his grip on the flashlight in his hand. He was a soldier, trained to deal with enemies, but this was something else. His heart pounded, yet his face stayed calm. He looked at Laura and Ethan. Both of them were pale. Their eyes wide with shock. Laura Mitchell swallowed hard. Her mind raced. The words were not spoken in English, but she understood them all the same. It was as if the ship had pushed the meaning into her head. She stepped forward slowly, her notebook clutched against her chest. "We are explorers," she said, in a clear but careful voice. "We found you buried here." The chamber pulsed. With light, the symbols on the walls glowed brighter, shifting and changing. Again, the voice spoke. "Not makers, not owners. Unfit, weak." Ryan's jaw tightened. "I don't like the sound of that," he muttered. Ethan Brooks ignored the fear in his chest and stepped toward the console. His eyes were full of wonder. "It's an artificial intelligence," he said softly. "It's alive, but only a fragment of what it used to be." He placed a hand gently on the edge of the console. "We're not your enemy. We want to understand." "You." The lights flickered, then dimmed. For a moment, the chamber was silent, except for their own breathing. Then the console brightened again. "Ship broken, abandoned, makers lost. War unfinished." Laura wrote quickly in her notebook, her hand trembling. She looked up. "It's telling us it was left behind. Its creators never came back for it." Ryan shook his head. "Or maybe they couldn't." His voice dropped lower. "If this thing fought in a war, maybe its side lost." The thought hung heavy in the air. The three of them exchanged uneasy glances. If there had been a war in the stars long ago, and if this ship had been part of it, then what had it been fighting? And was that enemy still out there? Suddenly, Console shifted, creating a glowing image above it. A hologram flickered to life. Stars filled the chamber, spinning and shifting until they formed a map of the galaxy. Tiny lights marked battles. Explosions rippled across the projection. The image showed fleets of ships, huge and terrible, tearing each other apart in silent space. Laura gasped. "It's showing us what it remembers." Ryan studied the map, his face grim. "That's not history. That looks like a warning." The hologram ended, fading back into darkness. The voice returned, slower now, as if it were growing weaker. "If war comes again, new hands must finish what was left undone." Ethan's eyes widened. "It wants us to repair it. It's saying we can use it." Ryan turned sharply. "Wait, you think we should try to rebuild this thing? We don't even know what it's capable of." Ethan's voice shook with excitement. "Exactly. That's why we need it. Look at it, Ryan. This ship is advanced beyond anything we have. If its enemies ever return, Earth would have no defense. But with this," he gestured at the glowing console, "we might stand a chance." Laura listened, her mind torn. She knew Ethan was right. This ship was a gift, or perhaps a burden, but either way, it was powerful. Still, her heart told her there was danger in touching something left behind from a war they did not understand. Before Ryan could answer, a loud noise echoed from outside the ship. Shouts rang through the camp. The three of them ran back down the corridor and out into the desert night. Soldiers were running, pointing at the sky. Laura looked up and saw a strange flash far above the clouds, like lightning but sharper. Flickered, then vanished. The night returned to normal, but the fear remained. "What was that?" Ethan whispered. A soldier hurried toward Ryan. "Sir, our satellites picked up a signal." A burst of energy went out from the ship the moment it powered up. Ryan's stomach sank. He knew what that meant. "We just told someone we're here," he said grimly. Laura's blood ran cold. If the ship had called out into the stars, then whoever had fought that ancient war might have heard. Whoever had left this ship might know humans had found it. Ethan looked from the sky back to the ship, determination hardening his voice. "Then we don't have a choice. We need to make it ours before they come back." Ryan stared at the towering shape of the alien vessel. His instincts screamed against it, but another part of him, the part that had fought battles and seen death, understood. If the enemy came, Earth's weapons would never be enough. Only this ship could stand in their way. Laura closed her notebook slowly. She felt the weight of history pressing down on her. Humanity had uncovered something more than a broken starship. They had uncovered a promise of war. The desert wind carried the faint hum of the ship, still alive, still waiting. And for the first time, Ryan, Laura, and Ethan realized the future of Earth might now depend on a machine built by strangers among the stars. Asterisk, desert camp no longer felt quiet. The discovery of the ship had drawn more people every day. Soldiers guarded the perimeter, scientists worked around the clock, and engineers filled the site with heavy machines. The alien vessel loomed in the center, half buried in the sand, glowing faintly as if it was watching them. Ryan Carter stood near the command tent with a pair of binoculars. His eyes scanned the horizon, but his mind was far away. He remembered the flash in the sky the night before and the report of a signal sent into space. His gut told him trouble was coming. Years of flying and fighting had taught him to listen. To that feeling, inside the ship, Ethan Brooks worked with wires and screens, trying to connect human machines to alien systems. Sweat dripped from his forehead, but his hands never slowed. "It's like the ship doesn't want to talk to us." Directly, he muttered, "But it listens. When I push energy into these circuits, it pushes back, like it's adjusting itself to understand us." Laura Mitchell stood nearby, studying the glowing symbols. She had copied dozens of them into her notebook, but the meanings were still unclear. Yet every time she traced her fingers over the markings, she felt a whisper in her mind, as if the ship was trying to guide her. "It wants to be used," she said softly. "It's waiting for someone to take control." Ethan smiled faintly. "Then maybe we're the ones it's waiting for." Ryan entered the chamber and shook his head. "Don't be so sure. I don't trust gifts left behind by unknown enemies." His eyes moved over the console. This ship belonged to someone else, and they might want it back. That night, the camp was restless. Satellites picked up strange readings from deep space. Flashes of movement, faint signals, things no one could fully explain. The scientists whispered that something out there had noticed the ship's awakening. Laura sat outside her tent, staring at the stars. The night sky stretched endlessly above her, filled with points of light. She had always loved the stars, but tonight they felt heavy, like eyes staring back at her. She closed her notebook and whispered, "If they come, we are not ready." Ethan joined her, carrying a small piece of alien metal he had managed to cut free. He sat beside her and rolled it in his fingers. "This thing," he said, "it doesn't burn, doesn't bend, doesn't break. Our strongest tools barely scratch it. Imagine what an entire ship made of this could do." His voice held both wonder and fear. Laura looked at him. "But what if the ones who built it return? What if they come to take it away?" Ethan's smile faded. "Then we fight with it before they can use it against us." The next morning, the sky gave them their first real sign. Radar picked up something beyond the edge of the solar system. Small at first, then larger as it moved closer. The readings showed ships, several of them moving with precision. Ryan stood over the radar screen, his face hard. "They're not asteroids. They're coming in formation." The room fell silent. The weight of those words pressed down on everyone. The scientists argued, the officers panicked, but Ryan kept his calm. "We knew this might happen," he said. "If the ship sent a signal, then someone answered." Ethan clenched his fists. "We don't have time to finish repairs, but we can still wake it up fully. We can make it fight." Laura shook her head, fear flashing in her eyes. "We don't even know how it works. If we push too hard, it could destroy itself for us." Ryan looked between them. "We don't have the luxury of waiting. If those ships reach Earth, our jets and missiles won't be enough." He pointed at the alien vessel. "That is our only chance." For the next hours, the camp became a frenzy of activity. Engineers worked under Ethan's command, feeding energy into the ship. Soldiers prepared defenses around the camp, though they all knew rifles and tanks would mean little against a space fleet. Asterisk. Laura sat at the console inside the chamber, tracing the symbols as she whispered translations under her breath. The ship pulsed with light, responding to her touch. It was as if it trusted her more than anyone else. Images flashed in her mind, maps. Weapon systems she barely understood. She felt the ship was teaching her by evening. The radar showed the incoming fleet moving faster. They would be close soon. The alien ship's hull glowed brighter than ever, its engines humming deep beneath. The Sandot Ryan stood on the ramp with a group of soldiers. He looked up at the stars, his jaw tight. "They're coming," he said quietly. "And this time, Earth won't be ignored." Laura stepped out of the ship, her notebook in hand. "I think I've unlocked something," she said. "Not just a ship. It has a mind, and it knows what it was built to do." Ethan joined her, his face shining with determination. "Then let's finish what its makers started. Let's turn it into ours." The desert wind howled across the camp, carrying the sound of the humming ship. Far above, hidden among the stars, The first alien fleet moved closer, confident and ready. But on Earth, humanity was preparing its answer. Asterisk, the desert shook as the ship began to awaken. Light spread across its black surface like fire flowing through veins. The ground rumbled, and the sound of engines deeper than thunder echoed under the sand. Soldiers stood back in fear, while scientists watched with wide eyes. The alien vessel was no longer silent. It was alive. Inside the ship, Laura. Mitchell sat at the glowing console, her hands moving carefully over the strange symbols. Every touch sent waves of light across the chamber. She felt as if the ship was guiding her, teaching her step by step. Her notebook lay open beside her, filled with rough sketches and half-finished translations, but she no longer needed it. The meanings were forming directly in her mind. Ethan Brooks was on the other side of the chamber, surrounded by wires and monitors. He had connected human machines into the alien systems, bridging the two with raw energy. Sparks flew from the generators, but he did not stop. "The systems are stabilizing," he called out, his voice full of excitement. "It's responding." To our commands, Ryan Carter stood with his arms crossed, watching the lights shift across the walls. His face was serious, his eyes sharp. He did not trust the ship, but he knew it was their only chance. "Keep it steady," he said in a low voice. "If this thing turns on us, we won't survive." Suddenly, the entire chamber shook. A loud roar filled the air as the engines deep beneath the desert came to life. Sand erupted outside, thrown into the sky as the ship broke free of the ground that had buried it for centuries. Soldiers ran for cover as the enormous vessel rose from the earth, dust and rocks crashing down around them. The ship hovered above the desert floor, casting a massive shadow over the camp. Its hull gleamed under the floodlights, every scar from old battles shining like a mark of survival. The hum of its engines filled the night air, deeper and stronger than anything built by humans. From inside, Laura gasped. "It's flying," she whispered. She could feel the ship's pulse through the console, steady and strong. Like a giant heart-beating dot, Ethan grinned, unable to hide his joy. "We did it. We brought it back." Ryan held onto the railing as the ship rose higher. His voice was steady, but his thoughts were heavy. "No," he said softly. "It brought itself back. We only gave it the chance." The camp below turned chaotic. Radios buzzed with voices from commanders demanding answers. Satellites locked onto the ship, feeding images back to government leaders across the world. Every nation now knew the truth. Humanity had uncovered and awakened an alien warship. Laura pressed her hands against the console as more symbols lit up. Suddenly, a new image appeared in her mind. It was not random this time, it was clear. A weapon. A terrible, powerful weapon. She saw beams of energy ripping through ships in space, battles ending in seconds. She pulled her hands away, trembling. "This ship, it's not just for travel," she said. "It was built for war." Ryan nodded grimly. "Then it's exactly what we need." Ethan leaned closer to the console, his voice firm. "If those enemy ships reach Earth, this will be the only thing standing in their way." As the ship steadied above the desert, it sent out another signal. The lights across its hull pulsed in rhythm, reaching out into the sky. Far away, hidden among the stars, the incoming alien fleet answered with its own silent energy. The two forces had found each other. Ryan turned to Laura and Ethan. "Then, it's decided. We make this ship ours. We use it, or we die without it." The next days blurred into constant work. Engineers from around the world were flown in secretly. Soldiers trained on the lower decks of the ship, learning to move through its massive halls. Laura worked tirelessly, translating the strange symbols, unlocking more of its controls. Ethan, pushed himself past exhaustion, teaching human machines to merge with alien systems. And Ryan began to prepare a crew, training men and women who could fly into battle aboard the alien vessel. Finally, after weeks of effort, the ship was ready for its first true test. The camp was silent as everyone gathered outside to watch. The vessel lifted higher into the night sky, its engines shaking the earth below. Its hull glowed brighter, as if it was alive with purpose. Laura stood on the bridge beside Ryan and Ethan. Her hands rested on the console. Her voice steady though. Her heart raced. "It knows we are here," she said softly. "It knows we are its new crew." Ryan's eyes were fixed on the stars ahead. "Then let's show the galaxy what happens when you leave something broken on Earth." With a roar like the sky itself tearing apart, the ship shot upward. In seconds, it left the desert behind, climbing higher and higher until the ground below was only a memory. The first flight of humanity's greatest weapon had begun far above. Beyond the edge of sight, the enemy fleet moved closer, confident, and ready to crush a world they thought was weak. But now, Earth had an answer. A ship born from alien war and rebuilt by human hands. A ship that carried a new name whispered among the crew. Retribution, and Retribution was ready to fight. The stars looked calm, but Ryan Carter knew danger was hidden among them. From the bridge of the alien ship, he stared at the endless sky. The Earth was far below, a glowing sphere of blue and green. For a moment, he felt pride at what they were protecting. Then his eyes returned to the radar. The signals were clear now. The enemy was coming. The crew stood tense around him. Soldiers in borrowed uniforms, scientists pressed into duty, and engineers who had never dreamed of flying a warship were all gathered on the bridge. They were inexperienced, but their faces showed determination. They knew the survival of Earth rested on this one ship. Laura Mitchell stood near the glowing console. Her hands moved slowly over the symbols, her notebook lying open at her side. The ship still whispered to her in ways she could not explain. She was not only reading its language, now she was starting to feel its thoughts. The ship wanted to fight. It had waited too long to stay silent. Ethan Brooks worked furiously at the controls, sweat dripping down his forehead. He had spent weeks trying to merge human technology with alien systems, and now his work would be tested. "Engines stable," he called out. "Shields are active. Weapons are charging, but we've never fired them before. I don't know what they'll do." Ryan's voice was calm but steady. "Then we'll learn fast. Stay sharp, all of you." Sudden alarm cut through the bridge. The radar showed the alien fleet breaking through the edge of the solar system. Dozens of ships, sleek and sharp, moved together in perfect formation. They were larger than anything humanity had ever built. Their weapons glowed faintly as they adjusted course toward Earth. The crew stared in silence. The enemy looked unstoppable. Ryan stepped forward. "They think we're weak. They think Earth is unarmed. Let's show them they're wrong." The alien fleet moved closer. Soon their signals filled the screens, and one of the ships broadcasted a message. A voice cold and heavy filled the chamber. It spoke in its own language, but the ship translated. The meaning for them: surrender the vessel. You are not its makers. You are not worthy. Refuse, and your world will burn. The crew froze. Laura felt her stomach twist, but she forced herself to speak. "Tell them no," she whispered. "Ship is ours now." Ryan nodded, his eyes never leaving the view ahead. "No surrender." The alien fleet answered at once. Bright lines of energy lit the dark sky, and beams shot toward Earth. The first strikes hit satellites, tearing them apart like paper. Another beam cut across the upper atmosphere, glowing brighter than the sun. As panic spread through the crew. As they watched, shields at maximum, Ethan shouted. The alien ship responded, a dome of light spreading around it. The first enemy shot slammed into the shield, shaking the entire vessel. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, but the shield held. Ryan gripped the railing, returned fire. Laura pressed her hands against the console. The symbols flared with light, and the ship responded like a living creature. A massive cannon unfolded from the hull, glowing brighter than lightning. With a sound that rattled every bone in their bodies, the ship fired. A beam of pure energy shot into the void, striking one of the alien battleships. The enemy ship exploded instantly, breaking apart in silence. The crew gasped. The weapon was more powerful than anything they had imagined. Ethan's eyes widened. "That wasn't even full power," he whispered. Asterisk. But the aliens did not retreat. Their ship spread out, firing from all sides. Beams slammed into the shield, rocking the vessel. The lights flickered, and systems sparked. The crew held on to anything they could as the ship shook violently. Ryan barked orders. "Target the lead ships. Keep moving. Don't let them box us in." The alien ship responded almost as if it understood. Engines roared, and the vessel spun sharply, dodging incoming fire. Its cannons glowed again, unleashing another blast. 2 more enemy ships were torn apart, their remains scattering through space. The crew cheered, but the battle was far from Celeste. But the battle was far from over. More enemy fire rained down. The shield cracked, alarms blaring across the bridge. Laura closed her eyes and pressed both hands against the console. Images rushed into her mind, memories of past battles, tactics once used by the ships. "Original makers," she gasped and shouted. "It wants us to dive down toward Earth." Ryan trusted her instinct. "Do it," he ordered. The ship dove sharply, pulling away from the fleet. Enemy fire chased them, but the ship's shields absorbed the worst of it. As they neared the upper atmosphere, the enemy ships followed, thinking they could trap the humans below. But the ship had a hidden weapon. Laura's hands flew over the symbols, activating a system she barely understood. Energy gathered deep inside the vessel. With a roar louder than thunder, the ship released a wave of force. It was not a beam, but a pulse, invisible to the eye. It's strong enough to tear through the pursuing fleet, one by one. The alien ships shuddered and broke apart, their engines silenced. The survivors scattered, retreating into the dark of space. The bridge was filled with stunned silence. Then cheers erupted. Soldiers shouted in triumph, engineers hugged each other, and even Ryan allowed himself a small smile. Laura leaned against the console, breathing hard. Her eyes glowed with wonder. "It's not just a weapon," she said softly. "It's something greater. It chose to fight with us." Ethan looked around at the glowing walls. "Then maybe it sees us as worthy after all." Ryan looked at the stars, his voice low but firm. This was only the first wave. They'll be back, and in greater numbers. But when they come, they'll find Earth ready. The alien ship, once abandoned, now soared above Earth under human command. Its new name carried across the bridge, whispered with pride. Retribution. End. Retribution had just won its first battle. Asterisk. The news of the first victory spread quickly across Earth. People cheered in the streets, and for the first time in many years, there was hope. The ship, now called Retribution, had shown the world that humanity was not helpless. But Ryan Carter knew the battle was not over. Victory in one fight did not mean the war was won. The aliens would not accept defeat so easily. On the bridge, the crew was busy repairing the damage from the first battle. Sparks had burned through panels, wires hung loose, and the shield generators had almost collapsed. Engineers worked day and night, their hands covered in grease and burns, but they did not stop. Every person on the ship understood what was at stake. If Retribution fell, Earth would follow. Laura Mitchell was studying the alien symbols again. She sat near the main console with her notebook open, filling page after page with sketches and notes. The ship's language was becoming clearer to her, but she still felt there were secrets hidden deeper inside. Sometimes, when she touched the console, she felt the ship almost whispering to her. It was like fragments of memories, flashes of battles from a time long past. Ethan Brooks was working in the engine chamber. The alien power core glowed with strange light, its energy flowing into human systems that were never meant to hold such force. He tightened bolts, adjusted connections, and tested circuits, all while muttering to himself. He knew the next battle would test the ship harder than before. Ryan walked between them, speaking to the crew and keeping their spirits steady. He reminded them why they were here, why they fought. "We are not fighting only for ourselves," he said. "We fight for every child, every family, every dream on Earth. We cannot fail them." His words carried strength, and even the most tired soldier found the will to keep going. One night, as the ship drifted quietly above the planet, Laura suddenly gasped. She had seen something in the console, a warning from the ship itself. She rushed to Ryan. "They are coming again," she whispered. "And not just a few ships this time, an armada. Hundreds." Ryan's face grew grim. "I had expected it, but hearing it confirmed was still heavy." "How long?" he asked. "Days, maybe less," Laura replied. The message spread across the crew. Fear touched their hearts, but so did determination. They had survived once, and now they would fight again. Soon, the alarms came. Radar screens lit up with signals. The alien fleet was moving into the solar system, larger than before, their ships filling the void like a swarm of locusts. They had not come to test humanity this time. They had come to crush it. On Earth, governments sent messages of support, but they had no other weapons strong enough to help. Retribution was the only shield between the planet and destruction. The crew knew this, and the weight of it pressed on them. The fleet drew closer. Dozens of warships, carriers, and strange vessels shaped like blades moved in perfect formation. Their weapons glowed, brighter and stronger than before. This was no raid. This was a war. Ryan stood at the center of the bridge. All stations. Ready, shields at maximum. Weapons online. Today, we fight not as scientists or soldiers, but as one people. The crew shouted back, their voices rising together. The first wave of fire came like a storm. Beams of energy rained down, lighting up the dark sky. Retribution shook violently as the shields strained. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, but the ship held. Ethan shouted from the engine room, "Shields at 60%. I need more power, or we won't last long." Laura placed her hands on the console, and once again the ship responded. Weapons unfolded, cannons glowed, and missiles prepared. "Firing now," she said, her voice steady. Retribution roared to life. Energy beams shot across space, striking enemy ships with brutal force. One by one, alien vessels shattered into burning fragments. The crew cheered, but their joy was short. For every ship they destroyed, 10 more moved forward. The battle raged. Retribution weaved and dodged, firing from every angle. The enemy surrounded them, trying to close in. Shields dropped to 30%. Hull breaches opened, forcing crews to seal sections of the ship. The crew fought with everything they had. Their voices filled with strain, but also courage. Then Laura saw something strange. Among the fleet, a massive ship stood at the center. It was larger than all the others, its surface covered with black armor that seemed to swallow light. She felt the ship itself react, almost as if it recognized its old enemy, that one. Laura whispered, "That is their leader." Ryan looked at her, then at the giant vessel. His decision was instant. Target it. If we cut off the head, the body will fall. Ethan shouted in protest. We don't have enough power for a direct strike. The weapon could overload the core. Ryan's voice was firm. Do it anyway. Laura pressed her hands harder against the console. The ship trembled, energy gathering, deep inside its core. Lights flickered, panels cracked, and the crew held their breath as the weapon charged. The alien fleet saw what was happening. Dozens of ships broke formation, rushing forward to stop Retribution. Beams hammered into the shields, tearing through layers of defense. Warning screamed across the bridge. Ethan yelled, shields failing, but the ship did not stop. The energy built higher and higher, brighter than the sun. Laura's eyes glowed with the same light as the console. Her voice shook as she whispered, now, Retribution fired. The beam was unlike anything they had seen before. It cut through space with unstoppable force, striking the massive alien flagship. For a moment, silence filled the void. Then, the flagship exploded, its black armor shattering like glass. The blast tore through the surrounding ships, ripping the enemy formation apart. The alien fleet broke. Leaderless, they scattered into the darkness, fleeing in panic. The bridge filled with cheers and tears. The crew hugged, shouted, and cried with relief. Retribution floated battered but alive, its hull scarred and its crew exhausted, but victorious. Ryan stood tall, his voice carrying across the bridge. This was their armada, and we stood against it. Earth still stands. Laura leaned against the console, her hands trembling. She felt the ship's quiet presence in her mind, no longer whispering, but proud. Retribution had become more than a ship. It was a promise, and humanity was no longer prey. Asterisk. The battle was over, but the war was not finished. Retribution floated in the darkness of space, wounded but alive. Earth below was safe, but everyone knew the aliens would return again. They had lost their armada, but they would not forget. Humanity could not wait forever. It was time to take the fight beyond Earth. Ryan Carter gathered the crew in the main hall. The lights flickered, and the floor still shook from damaged engines, but every face was focused on him. We have defended Earth, he said. Oh. But defense will never be enough. If we wait here, they will come again and again until we fall. We must carry the fight to them. We must show them humanity will not hide. The word spread strength through the crew. Some were afraid, but all of them understood. They had built Retribution not just as a shield, but as a sword. Now the time had come to use it. Laura Mitchell sat near the glowing console, her fingers brushing across the alien symbols. The ship responded to her touch like it was alive, and in her mind she saw flashes of distant stars. She whispered to Ryan, "The ship remembers where it came from. I can see the stars of its home. We can." "Follow them," Ryan nodded. "Then we go." Ethan Brooks prepared the engines. The power core pulsed brighter than ever, patched together with human and alien parts. "It's risky," he admitted. "We push this ship too far. It could tear itself apart. But if we stay here, we wait to die. I'd rather go forward." Crew made their choice. Retribution turned its great body toward the stars. With a deep hum, the engines ignited and the ship left Earth's orbit, vanishing into the dark. The journey was long and silent. Stars streaked past as the ship traveled through space faster than any human craft had before. The crew took shifts, repairing broken systems, studying alien designs, and preparing for what waited. They did not know what they would find, but they were united. At last, the stars on Laura's console matched the real sky outside. They had reached the system the ship had once called home. What they saw filled them with awe and anger. A giant world floated ahead, surrounded by black towers. In orbit, shipyards stretched like spiderwebs, building more warships in endless rows. The aliens had not stopped. They were preparing for an even greater war. Ryan stood at the window, his jaw tight. "This is their nest," he said. "We end it here." The enemy noticed them quickly. Dozens of ships rose from the shipyards, their weapons glowing. The battle began at once. Beams and missiles filled the void. Retribution shook, but the crew was ready. They fired back with everything they had, tearing through the first wave of enemy ships. But the fleet was endless. For every ship they destroyed, more came forward. The black planet loomed, its surface glowing with energy weapons larger than mountains. It seemed impossible. Laura pressed her hands to the console, her eyes glowing again. She felt the ships. Memories more clearly now. "There is a way," she whispered. "The ship was made for this." It was built not only to fight, but to destroy their stronghold if it was ever lost. Ryan looked at her. "Can you guide us?" "Yes," she said softly. "But it will cost us. The ship will burn itself to end them." The crew heard her. Words and silence filled the bridge. They all knew what it meant. If they used the final weapon, Retribution might not survive. But if they did nothing, Earth would one day fall. Ryan placed his hand on the console beside Laura's. "Then we finish this, for Earth, for everyone," Ethan shouted from the engine room. "If we do this, the core will overload. There's no turning back." Ryan's voice was steady. "Then this is the path we take." Laura's hands moved across the console, and the ship responded with a deep roar. Hidden panels opened across its surface, glowing brighter and brighter. Energy gathered like a star being born. The alien fleet sensed the danger and rushed forward in desperation, firing everything they had. Beams tore into Retribution, ripping away armor, but the ship pressed on. The crew held their breath as the weapon charged. Lights flickered, alarms screamed, but they did not turn away. Ryan stood tall at the center, his voice calm. "Hold steady. This is the moment we were made for." Then Retribution fired. The blast was greater than anything before. A beam of pure energy shot out, striking the black planet. The surface cracked like glass, fire pouring from its wounds. Towers collapsed, shipyards burned, and one by one, the alien ships exploded in the shockwave. The planet itself split apart, breaking into shards that drifted into the void. The enemy fleet scattered, broken and leaderless. The nest of their power was gone. Retribution floated in silence, its body torn and its lights dimming. The weapon had drained it to the core. Panels fell, engines flickered, and the ship drifted weakly. The crew looked at one another, exhausted but alive. They had done it. The threat that had haunted Earth was gone. Humanity was free. Laura touched the console one last time. The ship's voice whispered faintly in her mind, proud and fading. She smiled through her tears. "Rest now. You have given us everything." Ryan looked at his crew, at the faces of men and women who had risked everything. His voice was quiet, but strong. "We came into the dark with nothing but hope. We return with victory. Earth will never kneel again." Retribution drifted away from the shattered world, its engines weak, but still burning. It had carried humanity into the stars and given them a future. The war was over. The galaxy would remember. Humanity had taken an abandoned starship and turned it into their weapon of retribution. And in doing so, they had shown the universe what it meant to be human. Asterisk.